What time is it?
Pasa pasa,
Time?
pasa pasa.
Time? Every gal, every gal, every gal, every gal. I go me a
Pasa pasa.
don't stop, girl, wine, drink and feel the
Drink and rave till the morning light, my girl.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Relationship Pasta Pasta. Your girls are here with you once more to talk all things relationship. We are super excited to be with you guys again. And before we get into anything, let's just start by introducing ourselves. Again, I'm Soph and Mish.
Hey.
Carrie.
Hey.
And Shar.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Well, of course, guys, we want to thank you all for your continued love and support. We truly, truly appreciate your likes, your shares, and all of your encouragements. It is because of you that we are, and we are grateful that you continue to welcome us into your homes, your cars, and your hearts. Today, we will address a well-deserving topic. Are we in the month of June yet? What's today's date?
Yep, we are in June.
June.
What's happening?
Yep.
We're in June, and I'm sure by now we can all guess what the topic is. Juneteenth, guys. I'm having all types of emotion right now talking about this topic. To be honest, I'm not very well versed on the topic, but it's a topic that has brought many emotions since I learned about the day. So I'm super excited to dive into it. We're just going to talk with you guys, and we hope that, you can follow along and keep up with us. Well, for those who may not know, and I'm sure by now you all should know what Juneteenth is, but I'm going to give you just a brief background information as to what Juneteenth is. Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Liberation Day, and Emancipation Day, is a holiday celebrating the emancipation of those who had been enslaved in the United States. It is the oldest national celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States. On June 19, 1865, a Union general rode into Galveston, Texas, to announce that the Civil War had ended and slaves had been freed. This is 2 years, guys, after President Abraham Lincoln's proclamation of emancipation. 2 years. Let that sink in for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why is Juneteenth important? Juneteenth is a reminder that, and I like this quote, I found it and I liked it, so I used it. It's a reminder that nobody is free until everybody is free. It should be celebrated as a day when all Americans can liberate and regard, all Americans were liberated and regarded as being created equal. Yet, 156 years later, there are still many Americans that still have no clue what Juneteenth is.
Mm-hmm.
It took an officer, and we all are aware of this, kneeling in an African American's neck to educate many about the day. And that includes myself. Personally, I too can say I am amongst the ignorant who had no clue what the day was. As a teacher, this is not in any of our history books, at least none that I've taught from. At no point in the curriculum is the day addressed or mentioned. A day that bears such great importance and carries so much significance. For over 400 years, African Americans were beaten, enslaved, raped, killed, and not even viewed human enough to enjoy the luxury of this country, but human enough to build it. We're just going to talk about some questions, basic questions as to how we are dealing with Juneteenth. So I have a few questions for the ladies, and we're just going to talk about them. And we hope that you guys will consider the questions yourself and answer them as well. just to see just how knowledgeable you are with the subject and how you are applying the knowledge in your own life. So here we go. My first question. How much did you know about Juneteenth prior to Floyd's death? Who would like to start us off? How much did you know about Juneteenth? Shar.
So I knew about the day, and I knew that it was because they were the last set of people to get news about freedom and that it was delayed. I absolutely knew about it, but to be honest, it was something I knew about, but one, didn't know what to do about it because, to be honest, we all went to work on that day. And last year was the first time my job actually gave us off on the day. And so I had to kind of reckon with, okay, we know what it means. We know it's important, you know, but secularly it's not. But I feel like I need to make it important. So I did think about my, you know, like just for me, how I was going to celebrate it and what I was about to do. And if this was really going to be a real day off for a long time, or if it was just like a one-off thing they're doing because, like you're saying, of the experience with George Floyd. I'm like, is this a one-off thing? I'm like, and if it's a one-off thing, I'm about to educate myself. I'm about to take that day off every year and I'm about to celebrate it. And I thought it was, you know, like, it's worth it. And so I knew about it in passing. I would say last year is the first year I read about it and decided to give it the respect that I deserve to give it because it's my people them. And it was a thing of, you know what? I probably shouldn't wait for other people to acknowledge and celebrate something before I do it. And so I was like, you know what? Even if it's a one-off for them, it could stay a one-off for them. But come next year, come the year after, it's something I'm gonna kind of recognize. And yeah. So anyway, it made me read because I like to get like down into like wormholes. So last year, I remember reading about it. And what I remember reading is that it was actually quite contentious whether or not people wanted to celebrate it. And it still is quite contentious whether or not states want to acknowledge it and how they want to acknowledge it. And there's some states that refuse to acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. And so, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree with most of what you just said. What about you, Carrie?
I think like Shar, I knew about it in passing, you know, like when you read something, but you kind of just, it's not very real to you. But I do think last year, right, it was like you had to learn more. If you didn't know, you needed to find out. And if you knew very loosely, you felt this obligation to understand it better. So I think last year was probably the first year I paid real close attention. And I think like Shar wanted to understand it better to figure out what was I going to do with this new information for myself. I will say though, one of the times that I did see it in passing was on this show that I don't generally love, but it's on whenever I click on the TV. Blackish. Blackish did an episode about Juneteenth. And they do a nice job of like educating in a fun, entertaining way. And I remember seeing that episode probably a couple years ago, maybe. And I remember thinking, And it was like the husband was celebrating it and he was going extra black. And the wife was like trying to be like, okay, all right, pipe it down type of thing. But that was probably one of the first times I really was like, oh, okay, this is a thing in the African-American culture that should be general knowledge and should be certainly not just acknowledged, but celebrated in various ways.
I agree.
What about you, Mitch?
Very similar, except I just didn't had no knowledge of this thing prior to. I mean, all of the shows, etc., that had come up before then, I didn't even see that. Like the Blackish one, I'm sure that came out before last year. Maybe, I don't even know, but it was good once I saw it, but I didn't see it before then. And the funny thing is that it's a Texas holiday. It's a state holiday. And I do the calendar for our job, well, my job. And because it's not a firm holiday, it used to pop up on my research when I'm looking for like holidays to put on the calendar. And I'm wondering if I have to go back and look to see if I ever put it on the calendar prior to now. But I don't even think so. I never even looked at it. I was like, oh, this is a Texas state holiday, but there are lots of state holidays that I never look into. I just don't pay attention to. So this definitely was one of them. I have no idea, and I'm still lacking in information when it comes to Juneteenth a lot. So yeah, I didn't have much information then. I have a little bit more information now between now and then, but not as much as obviously I should. I mean, I'm up on the basics of it, the whole idea of why it exists and, you know, the history of it, but I don't know. I don't want to fall into the trap of the holiday that we do now, where everything is a day off and you use it to go do a barbecue and you use it to travel, use it to do whatever. It's just so commercialized, all the holidays. And yes, I'm grateful for another holiday on the calendar, but I just don't want to fall into that trap of, okay, it's Juneteenth or it's just a day off or whatever. Because the kids won't even realize because they're not in school. So it's not like they're teaching them in school. You know, they probably teach you things in school based on the holidays that pop up. So when Martin Luther King Jr. Day comes up, they're teaching them about that because it's a holiday that pops up on the calendar, but they're not really teaching them about Juneteenth because it's in June, in the summertime. Anybody caring about that? Plus, they're not trying to teach them anything outside of whiteness. So that is even a step further. You got to teach them about things that are outside of what falls in the school calendar, and then two, they got to teach them things that don't fall into the white book. So it's just taking a lot of steps into making sure that I try to educate myself first before I try to like pass on any information. But yeah, I didn't really know anything about Juneteenth before now. Had no idea whatsoever that it was a real thing that mattered to me. So now it does, and I guess now I have to inform myself.
Misha, I'm honestly like you. I didn't even know the word until last year when this whole thing came out. I'm like, June, what? What are we talking about? Naturally, it forced me to do a little bit of reading about it. I can't tell you that I read every book that they wrote about it, but it was just, I remember when I first heard about it, and my husband is a history buff, so he knows like literally everything history. I remember when I asked him and he started giving me the information, I was like, wait, how come this is my first time hearing about this? Such an important holiday that we should have learned about.
How come it's the first time? Okay.
I'm like, how come? And, you know, I have taught history, and it's, I mean, nothing, nowhere I have the word even mentioned or anything. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I thought it was very strange that in a culture in America where so much has happened, a day like this just got swept under the rug. And even though it was a national holiday, like you said, no one, it's like, let's just give them the holiday, but not enforce it. So
it's not a national holiday.
I think it was, I think it exists on the books as a holiday, but it's not one that's enforceable. It's kind of like how you have Lincoln's birthday, and you know, like you have days on Google Maps, and no one, and it's not like a state holiday where you must. And they recently, I'm pretty sure they had to make it a state holiday because otherwise my job would not have, out of the kindness of their heart, do it, because I work for a state, you know, like it has to have a reason for my job to do it. It's not a private company.
It wasn't a national holiday though. It's
it's state, because there's still some states. It's up to the states to enforce it, because there's still, I look like Hawaii and 2 other states absolutely don't even recognize it. Some states recognize it and don't enforce it.
Right. So it definitely is a state holiday. It has been a Texas state holiday for a long time, like obviously long time. I mean, it happened in Texas, so really get it together.
You know, Misha, I was thinking it's actually I don't want to commercialize it. That's not what I'm saying. But I think it's actually okay to bust a barbecue. And I'll tell you why. That's how the first time I knew it existed and I never celebrated it myself. But in my friend circles, you know, like I have some good friends and I tend to be attracted to things that are Afrocentric anyway. And so they used to have these like I want to say hair and food and culture events around Juneteenth, and they still do. I just can't remember the names because I've never been to one, but my friends have been, and some of my family members have been, you know, and it's like a thing for them. So I feel like they do like a celebration of all things Blackness. So it could be like a celebration of like Black family, you know, and the fact that we're out here not free, but we out here, you know, in this continuous like process, right? I don't know. It's almost.
Yeah, I'm feeling that.
I don't know.
That's true.
I still don't know what I'm about.
You're right.
Now tell me.
So much to learn. Still a lot of information
Still
out
a
there.
lot
But
to learn. Still a lot to learn.
let's think back on your job. What new projects or policies have your job initiated since the day? I know, Sharifa, you mentioned that your job is, you know, giving you guys the day off. Is there anything else? Did your job did anything during that time?
We got a lot of official emails to tell us about this new day that we're getting and why, what it meant. Kind of like what you would read if you Google Juneteenth. That's what they did to kind of announce that you are now going to start getting this day off, right? And quite frankly, I think they made it like a floater that you could like intersperse with something else. But no, my job hasn't done anything else besides.
Did they give you it this year?
Yes, but you know what? This year's a Saturday, so I think we can take like the Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. My job is pretty much the same. I think they've done a very good job of communicating about racial diversity all around, just, you know, more communication, more transparency. And maybe it's not, I don't know if it's helping at all. I mean, I can't tell from the front end of it if it's helping at all, but there is more communication about it in general, not just, oh, it's Juneteenth, let me send an email or whatever. Just in general, they're being more communicative. So I don't really know. I don't think they're doing anything specific to Juneteenth. I think they're just doing things to make us more, to make it more a more inclusive environment, or maybe just feel more inclusive. You know, just, I really don't know if if there's anything that they're doing that will change anyone's outlook, but I guess they're trying. So A for effort.
I do think the governor has made it a state holiday. So this year, for I want to say the first time, we have the Friday off in observance of Juneteenth. I think to Misha's point, I'm in social work, so I think race equity and diversity has always kind of been part of the discussion, but now there's more commitment. Like there's been a creation of offices and they're hiring folks, right? There's this push to really put action behind words, because I think it feels very trendy a lot of times for people to be like, this, we're doing race equity work and we're doing diversity and inclusion work. But when you look at the real measurable outcomes, it's really all conversation. And so I think what I've seen over the last year, speaking from my workplace specifically, is real actionable movement. Now, the outcomes of those movements, right? Only time is going to tell if it sustains that momentum, if it actually reaches the, set outcomes. Because I think when we make changes to systems, they have to be measurable. We can't just say we want to talk about a thing more, because we could talk a thing to death and nothing changes about that thing. So those changes, I think, are yet to be seen, like actual impact. But it's definitely spurred, I think, more action towards the words that we've been talking about for a very, very long time. So that is encouraging to see.
Okay.
I agree.
That's definitely that's definitely the culture at my job now. Just like Carrie's saying, not about Juneteenth, but definitely about diversity and equity.
I wish I can have similar stories about my job. They did nothing. Nada. Not even an email was sent. I literally, and to this day, I feel like I'm still apologizing. Actually, I'm not apologizing anymore. What am I saying? I went off. I'm in a group with my coworkers, a few of my coworkers, and I remember bringing it up in the group, and it was like cricket. No one responded. No one said anything. So back then I'm in my feelings, right? It's a lot going on. So I'm like, wait. So I said, wait, nobody's gonna respond, to no one said anything. And guys, I'm not gonna lie to you. I went off. I went off so bad in that group. I was like, because none of you are feeling what I'm feeling and going through what I'm going through. You have nothing to say. You're all a bunch of hypocrites anyway.
Did it elicit any reaction from them? Like, did it now lead? No. I'm wondering if it led to like
one of the members text me outside of the group, because for me it was a very emotional time, because with the Floyd thing, it brought back memory of my brother, and I think I told you guys about my brother being beat up really bad by police, and then like pretty much threatened that he couldn't say anything about it. So when that happened, like, it brought up a lot of emotions for me. That was very emotional. I was really in my feelings. So when I text them, and it was like just a normal, how do you guys feel about what's going on in the country? Just regular, and you learn not to mix politics with. But I figured I was in a group where I could have asked that question, and I would have gotten a response. But no one responded. One of the members in the group, she texted me outside of the group. She said, "Miss Hill, are you okay?" And my response was, "Why are you texting me outside of the group? Text me in the group." I was like, "Don't text me outside of the group. Text me in the group. Ask me if I'm okay in the group so I can answer you." Right. She's like, "I'm only trying to help." I said, "Help me in the group. So others in the group can get help too." The day after, I called her and we talked about it. I apologized. I explained to her that I was just in my feelings. But my job to this day, not one email, nothing. We did get Juneteenth off, and it's now on the calendar that we're going to keep getting it. I think that's the only noticeable thing that I can say that they have done. But apart from that, not even an email, nothing.
The school district, so you get a holiday and the school district doesn't talk about it like you. I mean, you guys still are in school in June. We're not. So when the kids get off, I mean, a lot of the holidays that you guys have during school, it's somehow integrated into the curriculum somehow. Like, I mean, they talk about Christmas, Thanksgiving. I mean, almost everything. President's Day, they talk about everything. So maybe at some point, they may try to integrate it into the curriculum, but do you find a way to try to integrate it yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Listen, when Martin Luther King Day come around, the only teachers that do anything are the Black teachers, and so the two of us, mind you. Can I just put that out there in my building?
Required?
It's not required.
What?
But you know what's even funnier? And when I first started working, we always get MLK Day off. For the past 2 years, they took it from us. They took it away from us. They were like, not getting it anymore. I'm like, why not take one of the Jewish holidays? I'm sorry for all my Jewish friends out there, but why not take one of the Jewish holidays? They have like 1,000. We barely have one day. Yeah, we're in school now. So yeah,
interesting.
And actually, so this year I read about MLK Day, and turns out that there's also some states And so because I moved into the Northeast, I assumed, and it's always been celebrated, you know, in New York or New Jersey. It just became a regular thing to me. There's states that don't celebrate that either, and some of them who've whether there's been voting acts or something to institute it, they mix it up with something else. You don't even know what date is.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Yeah.
Wow.
Not a public holiday, not a national holiday, it's a state holiday.
MLK?
State by state.
Wow.
That's surprising. I feel like MLK is a federal holiday. I don't know what that trickles down to on a state level.
I think it's a federal one, but I think it's the state's choice how they, because I saw.
Well, if it's a federal holiday, doesn't that mean that it's national? I don't know anything about America. Sorry, America. Sorry.
Well,
I don't know.
Because clearly, if it's not even something that's required teaching,
right?
And you have to find that information and like teach your children and educate yourself for yourself. Clearly, we do all the work ourselves for this. So
definitely.
Yeah, it's not in the curriculum. Teachers usually on that day we just go and find information. And again, who do you think we're going to find information?
Right.
You know?
I agree.
Because in my mind, you need to know, right?
I know 100% agree with you. And that's why some people are salty on 4th of July, because Black people weren't even free on Independence Day.
Seriously.
Very
I mean,
true.
it's a very, very serious thing. But as I said, I don't care about no holiday. Holidays, that day off that they can tell you, they can sell you on when you start in your job and say, we get X amount of days. That don't mean anything because you're not telling us anything about the holiday. I mean, I have no idea what's happening. Like, we get what you call it off, but
for the job one.
I think the question is, to me, like, the role of work and school, right, are beyond the holidays, right? So it's like there's the holiday, but there is really a lack of a culture about understanding real history.
Correct.
And that's the real problem. Like, give me the holiday, sure, I'm going to sign up because you give me 15 holidays off, sure. I don't know that I'm looking to my employer to tell me about the purpose of the holiday and educate me.
Correct.
But I am looking to my employer to create a space where there is equity, right? Like
exactly. That's what I'm saying. I completely agree.
I think the school should be teaching the kids. I don't know
no,
if
the
my
school
job
should be teaching the kids 110%.
Yeah, I don't know if my job needs to teach me. I like that they make the space for it, and
no, the schools should be, but I think that's the overall issue with the education system, period. Like this, right? I think a few of, I don't know, Shar, I think Shar sat in on this. This woman did a webinar about Black education. This was a couple months ago, and it was phenomenal because they had, right, these educators speaking to Soph's point about all that's missing in the curriculums and how they had to create that body of work for their students in places like Newark, like Patterson, right? Like wherever those pockets are, where you have a majority of the kids are Black and brown kids. Like, how can the history books not include you? It's a disservice to the kids. Yeah. That is his own body of work that I'm not even gonna go into today, but it's egregious.
You're so right. A big chunk, and I taught history for 1 year, and a big chunk of the history book is on Columbus discovered America. The big chunk of what they learned in fourth grade, that was fourth grade that I taught history for, is on Columbus, and I'm like, really? Is this what you think my babies want to learn about? Like nothing, how, what it was like for their fourth grade, nothing. So everything that I taught them was literally from me saying, absolutely not. I'm going to tell you that Columbus did not discover America. It's the biggest lie. It was here before you came here. I'm not going to tell you that. And if you don't like it, then, but it is like a lot of times, the problem that I'm seeing in the class, in the school system, is teachers don't want to do that extra work. So you have some teachers just going to be like, I'm going to tell you what's in the book and keep it moving. And this goes to my next question to you guys. What can we do, like this generation, with all this knowledge that we're gaining slowly, but gaining somewhat? How can we better our future kids so that they can know more and be more aware as to just where they're coming from? Because I feel like I wasn't prepared with that. And I mean, I wasn't born in America, right? None of us were born in America. We came here, we got the stories, but nonetheless, if you think about it, we were all taken from Africa, as my grandmother loves to say. We were all taken from Africa and thrown in different parts of, you know, the Caribbean and America and so forth. So it's not like none of us are originally from Jamaica or from America or wherever we are now. So how can we better educate our kids?
Well, we got to be better educated ourselves. I mean, I cannot educate my children if I'm not educated. So I'm not going to give them piecemeal information. And I mean, I can try to give them, and they can ask the questions, and I can try to do the research, etc. But got to be educated. I think a lot of the information, I think a lot of the information is like, I need to learn the history of Blacks in America. And I think we, from Jamaica, learned still whitewashed information about the history of Blacks in the Caribbean. It was still whitewashed, but we still learned about people that probably Americans would not know. So, I mean, if you think about like Nanny and etc., I don't think anybody in America is learning that stuff because it's the history of Jamaica. So I think my kids are very American. I mean, they're Jamaican too, obviously, because I'm Jamaican, but they're very American. So I need to educate myself on the history of Black people in America. And that includes the Juneteenth would fall under that. And of course, I'm not trying to be an expert on this. This is the other thing, is that I feel like a lot of us are thinking that, okay, we need to be experts on this. We need to be in depth. We need to read every book. We need to make sure that we learn everything so we can pass it on to our kids. But I think just with everything else, we have to take baby steps. And so educating ourselves first and then passing on to the information. So once information is coming into the lives of our kids, for example, in my case, I need to do the research to see if that's real. You know, Christopher Columbus discovered America is something that has been passed down from generation to generation. It's not even one of those stories that you can say it's Chinese telephone. It's the same stinking story that's been told from generation to generation. After a while, you got to be like, wait, is this story even real? Like, what part of this is real? What part have they twisted to make it, you know, sound good, etc.? So doing the research as it's come up, etc. So with Juneteenth, it's the same thing. You know, I am just now finding out about this. I never knew about this before. So educating myself on what that is, and then, you know, passing that on. But as much as a whole, as I said, instead of like piecemeal. But still I can't learn everything all at once. So try my best to give it holistically, but still in small doses. I don't know if that made sense, but
I don't even think you're expected to learn all at once, right? Because I mean, really, from all the other things that you have going on in your life, I don't think anyone is expected at this point to learn it all.
People are. You would say no because people are like, how it's like, how do you, this is your, people are saying, right, this is your history, why aren't you educated on it? Why, the information is out there, why are you not educated about it? So they're expecting us to know, because it's your history. So yes, you're in the same boat as me, where you're like, okay, well, I didn't know about this and I'm educating myself now. But there are people who are like, the information's been out there. Why you ain't educate yourself before now? So yes, you're saying that, but honestly, you can't speak for everybody.
I think it's a difference than being educated about something and being an expert about something, right? I don't think you have to know everything about it to say you're educated about it. Like now I feel like I'm educated about it. I at least know what it is and why it is, what it is. Before I didn't even know the word existed. You see what I'm saying? So at least if my daughter could be able to come to me now and say to me, hey, mommy, Juneteenth, I can say, well, yeah, back in the day when the white man, before I'd be like, what's that, baby? So I'm not an expert, and I don't think I would ever become an expert, but at least now I feel like I have some information that I can pass down. If she wants to be an expert, then by all means, sweetie, go and read,
Yeah.
What do you feel like that?
I kind of feel like the best place to start is kind of like, we know we haven't been told the truth in large part, and we know a lot of things have been like white explained, and there's a lot of information out there that is not general knowledge, and we have to do some work. So I think if we start right there, then at least we know that when facts come our way, like Misha said, they tell you this story and it's so nice and clean. Oh look, the Nina Pinta Santa Maria. Them ships came.
That just brought me back to like primary school.
At least no. And if we at least tell our children that, this is what we learn, and we have to be reteaching ourselves, and you can learn with us and have an interest. I have an interest in my history. We all just need to have an interest and then, educate ourselves, like you're saying. And, this is not about Jamaica, but Misha mentioned it, and it is so true. Yeah. We don't get the history we get in Jamaica is a interesting piece of history now. Like, do you know anything about Jamaica apart from the 7 national heroes and their stories? And if you did some research, you'll know some of the pictures are not even them. And we have statues up, and it's like in large part not the actual person, because those are pictures that are representations of other people, and people aren't sure who they actually are.
Right.
And so if you think about it, did you really learn about slavery in Jamaica? No, we learned about some rebellions associated with some national heroes.
Correct.
We really learn about independence in Jamaica. We don't know nothing about our most recent history. It's like history stopped after 1962. Like, we don't learn anything about political history coming up. It's really something else. I tell you, I was in college when I first kind of got my what? Like taking black experience in America. Listen, I used to come out to them class that the Vex, when they're showing us just like how they build the roads. Like, I remember we're looking at some highways in Rochester, New York, and how they build the roads and how people have to travel to go to work, and how many people die on the highways going through people's neighborhood and have the picnic. And I'm like when we left those classes, I was like livid, like, what kind of life this? And it's the same thing with the people in Jamaica too.
Yep. But I mean,
disenfranchised neighborhoods. It might be all black people, but it's still the same kind of attitude, the have and the have nots. And so you see, I feel overwhelmed. Like, last summer was hard, and I will say, I was like, well, if I have to get up and work, they're still sending bills. Like, I still have to if you still have to get up and do daily tasks, activities of daily living, then you have to find a way to detangle from it all, because it's been a year and everybody still has to show up to work every day, right? We still have to pay our bills.
If they had a job.
I have to wake up and comb my hair, brush my teeth. Like, I'm just like, if we are to engage in life, we do have to find a way to balance it all, and just try to figure out how much we can take, because if you look at these advocates out there doing the work, you're like, I see why, I don't know, hats off to them.
Correct.
I'm gonna just keep trying.
Correct.
I support, I say donate, advocate as far as you can, but it's I don't know, it's a lot.
It's a lot, but I think there's a lot we can do, depending on what your interests are, depending on your capacity, right? It depends on a lot of things. But I think the one of the more valuable things we can do is to stay actively curious. Like, I feel like sometimes it feels like a lot, so we just shut down. It's like, whatever. Like, my life goes on. I got to pay my bills. I got to send my kids to school. I got to take care of my house. And all of those things are true. But I think until we have innate curiousness about ourselves, that leads to a larger curiousness about our collective self, right? Like, I can't be concerned about the collective till I'm concerned about myself and curious about myself.
Right.
And so I think, in my mind, that's part of the more valuable pieces. Like, there's a lot we can do. We can donate, we can march, we can create things that speak to rebellion and speak to truth. And there's so much we can do depending on your situation. Yeah. But I think all of that starts with really being actively curious, not just, I want to know more, but what are you going to do, right? Being active about that curiosity is so important, because I feel like I know a lot of things. I'm not doing something about all those things, right? So whatever that action looks like in your life is going to be different. But I do think we have to be curious and not shut things down. I feel like sometimes we get sort of ashamed of our history and of people that look like us sometimes, that we shut things down. Like, oh no, they're too Black. Oh no, they're too African. Oh no, they too like.
They too
we
woke.
want to be like, it's like you gotta accept the spectrum.
Yes. Can we talk about that?
Them being too
woke?
Can we
talk about it?
No, I'm like spectrum, because like people like Black. Let me not even start. People love Black excellence, whatever that look like, but they don't want. Now they talking about people with hair bonnets. Like, they just don't want us to be us. Something about us
Correct.
is offensive. It's not good enough. It's not pristine. It's not elegant. Because now they talk about bonnets, then they be talking about we're loud, then they be talking about we on the street dancing. Meanwhile, when they're ready to commercialize and sell us back that same stuff in like 5 years, it's gonna be okay.
5 years in like the 30 days, man.
Right? The next spring season, people gonna have bonnets on in Paris.
Okay.
They're gonna be buying
30 days.
Oh yeah, the bonnets. Oh yeah, the
braids.
That we don't like. But anyway.
Yeah, I think we have to accept that spectrum ourselves first. Because I think when you value yourself, nobody can tell you what's worthy, Yeah. So I feel like I see that, I've seen that journey myself, and I see it in those around me, that we go through like inching of how much we accept ourselves and how much we accept others. And sometimes that shifts. Like, I'll see first generation college students start making a couple dollars and now the hood feel crazy. No, you grew up in the hood. It's the same hood. Nothing's changed except that now you have a different type of access. But those families, that was you. That was you and your family a decade ago or 2 decades ago. So I think my struggle is like, there has to be an acceptance of the spectrum of us, and not to say we're going to be okay with nonsense, because nonsense is never okay. Like being disrespectful, all that stuff, that sits in another bucket. That's not acceptable. But understanding that if somebody shows up not looking like your corporate Black person, that person is still worthy of respect and acknowledgement and validation and all the things. So I think we struggle with that. I really do think that's
learn that, Terry.
What's that, Shar? I was gonna say.
Shar was saying that she had to learn that.
But I think I agree. I think because we're in a space where we have been able to deal with the trauma, then it's a little easier for us to identify that and learn that. But a lot of people have not. I mean, they've pit us against each other from the inception of slavery. I mean, house nigga, field nigga. So just like basic alone. So if you've had years on years of this, and like generations of it being built into like a traumatic experience, it's hard to break that until you're okay with addressing that trauma, addressing that it's not normal. It's not normal for you to go against someone because the society says so. But we're becoming more, the information is now is more available. And so we're becoming more educated on lots of things that have to do with, for example, trauma bonds and just trauma in general and how to deal with that and breaking the cycle. But that all is also quite new. All of that has not been readily available to our grandparents, for example. They had no idea about that. It was just they're trying to feed their kids. I mean, even conversations now with my grandmother about what it was like living in Jamaica when she was 10 or when she was just going into the workforce. And my idea of what it was, as opposed to what it really was for her, her experience is just so different. And I just think that we are getting to a place where we can accept that the information is out there for us to be able to better ourselves and identify that there is a spectrum. There are people who think one way, think another way, and it's okay to fall somewhere on the spectrum, and those people are still acceptable and the other people are still acceptable, because they've taught us that that's not the case. You either fall in line or it's not.
I mean, listen, there's a lot of things at play. I think it, like anything else, it can be very complex. I do think a lot of that starts with understanding full history, right? And not starting history at slavery, but starting history at the beginning of history.
Correct.
And so it's like, how do you inform your perspective fully, right? Because slavery is its own timeline, but there was a whole timeline before slavery, right? And what does that mean for us as individuals and what that means for us as people? I think that's part of the healing, a large part of the healing, right? Because it's like you can't know where your capacity lies until you know where you've been.
Right.
And so I feel like if there's often very like, there's this like connection to, okay, slavery is where the story starts. And it's like, well, no, our capacity isn't in slavery. Our capacity is in great civilization. That's the height of our capacity, right? And so I am often frustrated by this lack of interest in full history and really understanding where we come from and what our true lineage is and how it unfolds today. So will we make time for those things? All of those things are personal decisions, but they very much impact how we live and how we perceive ourselves and perceive others. So it's a lot.
Yep. And as we are even living, people are experiencing their own personal traumas. So, learning about the history of time, not the history of time, but as you said, before even slavery, learning about where your people are from and, the transformation and the traumas that we went through as a people, not even just individually as a people, is important, but it can feel very overwhelming.
It can, and this is the last thing I'll say about it. I feel like sometimes it's like, why? Because I've had these thoughts and I had to resolve them in my own way. Like, why is it important for me to know these things? They happened so long ago, right? Like, why don't I just start where I am right now? And you could, but you're missing out on such critical information as to why you exist the way you do in the space you do. If you don't know. It feels so overwhelming, but there's this quote that is always in the back of my head. The historian's name is John Henry Clark, and he said, all of history is a current event. And it is absolutely true. Yeah. There's nothing you can talk about today that doesn't have a historic perspective as to why it exists the way it exists right now. So it's like, we can avoid the work, but there's no way around the work. You're going to have to get through the work. You have to go through it. There's no shortcut. There's no, I'm going to get the Cliff Note version.
Yeah.
You gotta, there's no way around it. There's just no way around it.
I agree.
I have to agree with you, Misha, when you said it's overwhelming sometimes. It is. And for people like myself who gets very emotional and very like I literally submerge myself into stuff like this, I have to pretty much allow myself to do it in small doses because I don't want to be the one to go blow up a police station or something like that. Like I have to really, and I'm being like, listen, you know, it's good when you know yourself. I have to do it with small dosage. I can't. I know personally, I can't just overwhelm myself with too much information because I will lose my mind, and nobody wants to see that. And with all that you guys just said, you actually did address my last question that I had. So before we wrap this up, just quickly, is there anything that you guys are planning for this coming Juneteenth? If you're anything like me, I know last year I was so super excited. I ordered matching shirts for the family, and we did nothing but took pictures. But we had our matching shirts. And this year I'm like, we have to find somewhere to go, guys. We have matching shirts. You know, I'm sure Elizabeth shirts may not be able to fit her anymore, but we have to do something. So any plans that you guys have for this Juneteenth?
No, I don't have any plans. I'm just gonna be here being Black. I mean, I don't know if I need to make other plans, but it's gonna be a blackity black day.
Black?
Gary, open up the grill, Gary. I'll bring my family to open our matching Juneteenth shirt and we can have a little barbecue.
All right, now.
Together.
Listen,
we have a watermelon.
Oh my
and
gosh,
Shaw will
the
come on down, and well, Misha will be there in spirit.
Oh gosh.
Do a celebration of Blackness.
Any plans, Shar?
I thought we just made a plan. What's going on?
My bad.
We're gonna be in that glorious sunshine that Carrie's sitting up in right now.
Right.
But ladies, this was good. This was good. I truly enjoy our little chat. I truly enjoy the knowledge that we're able to just impart on each other. And I really hope that those who are listening to just take some time out to just think about you and just your knowledge of your history and how much you're doing and how you're spreading the knowledge that you know, and what you don't know, how much you're trying to educate yourself, and make a stand, do something about it. We have come so far. We have so much further to go, but it's still, we have made some headway, but we are not half where we need to be. We not only should celebrate Juneteenth, but I also think we should commemorate the day. For too many years, African Americans have been working to prove that they're good enough. It took years for this country to elect an African American president, and we all know just how hard that was for that to happen. Some may say we are headed in the right direction, but there is still much work to be done. Celebrate and support Black businesses, and that's something that I can say I have been trying to do. I don't know if you guys are all aware. I know Carrie definitely know about the Black-owned business on Facebook that I know Carrie's very active in. I try to support them as much as I possibly can. And I think we should definitely try to support more Black-owned businesses. Celebrate Black successes. Initiate and do advancements. Whatever we can do, I think we should help out each other. Carrie have a quote on her Instagram page. I saw it today and I was like, this is cute. I really, really like it. And I don't mean cute like cute. I mean, it's powerful. Whatever door you go through when you get to the top, don't just close it behind you. Keep it open for somebody else to make that step too. And I really like that, Carrie. I thank you for sharing that. Use your voice to promote change. And most of all, be the change. Ladies, any closing remarks that you'd like to make before we wrap up?
No, I don't have any. I mean, I, as always, have learned a lot about things. You know, I always feel supported in this group about my lack of knowledge or my aim to be more knowledgeable. So that's always great. But yeah, I'm just trying to learn more. I'm trying to be more blackety black, but you know,
Blackity black, whatever that is, right?
yeah, whatever that is.
I think because we all have a Jamaican background, there's a lot of the American history that we don't know. And unless we were told about it or something happened like last year that brought on new information, we're not going to readily just run out there and try to find that information. But I think we should try. Again, we're not going to all be expert on every Black history that's out there, but I think we should definitely have enough information for our babies and our nieces and nephews so that they can be more knowledgeable than we were. That's my opinion. What about you, Shar?
My takeaway is definitely, like Niche, trying to engage and learn more. I have always been curious, but I think as I got older, I got a little bit more actively, curious and interested. And I just hope to continue to take up space as a Black person in America, and become educated and informed about history of my people in Jamaica as well. I love to read about Jamaican history when I can find things, but also here in this country, because as bad as things are, there's a lot of activity with respect to civil rights happening here, that probably needs to happen in Jamaica that's not. So I just feel like there's a lot to learn about myself, a lot to learn about American history and Black American history. And I'm just gonna keep small doses, like Soph says. I endorse small doses, and I endorse learning not only, like Carrie was saying, not only about slavery, learn about your culture or practices or history and our language and all of those wonderful things that we brought with us to this side of the world, and all the resilience, and learn about where we're coming from and our ancestors, right? I think that's equally important, because yes, great civilizations, we're coming from kings and queens. It's not right. It's not a myth. It's not something that people are saying to engender some kind of value. We are valuable.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Why the king can't wait to pick we up? Because let's take up space. Come on, people. Let's get it.
Let's get into it.
Listen, there's a lot of value here. We built our civilization, and we came over here and built theirs.
That's correct.
With nothing. I always say that with minimum of everything, we're able to do it. We're smarter than we think, and that's one thing that my mom always say to me. Why do you think they're scared? Because they know that if we were to ever truly understand just how much we know or just how smart we are, if we were to ever truly understand our worth, we'll be unstoppable. And I believe that. I think if as a race, as a culture, we were to ever truly tap into our true potential, it's a wrap. And with that said, it's a wrap.
I'm dead.
Carrie, any takeaways do you have for us?
No takeaways.
Well, everyone, we just want to thank you again. Thank you so much. Carrie's like, you said it all. It's good. I do want to thank you, ladies, for spending the time with us. I want to thank all our listeners for just listening and spending the time with us. We really hope that you have learned something and that you would apply something to your own personal life and share the information. Don't forget, as always, to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, I am Sophia.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.